Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the Conflict of Nick channel. I'm your host Nick, and today we are going to be getting a brand new series after a break I've taken to kind of relax myself and recover from all the stuff I've had to do the past weeks with classes and everything. Now I feel is the right time that I can start bringing a new series for you guys to add on to my basics series that I've done in the past, the unit basics series. And today I think y'all will like what I'm going to do. I am going to be starting a new series explaining every country in the 64 player modes. Obviously the 100 player modes would be a lot of countries, and the countries are different in each mode, but there are many modes where there's 64 players and the countries are really just the same, or they only have some slight variation. So we're going to be getting a series where we're going to be explaining all the series in the World War III 4 times, the Apocalypse, stuff like that has this 64 player layout. So we're going to be going country by country in certain continents. For example, this video will be North and South America. I'll do one on Africa, Europe, etc., stuff like that. So we're going to dive right in. I am playing as Cuba today for this video because we're explaining the Americas, obviously. And today we're going to be going from top down, from Canada all the way down to Argentina. So, without further ado, why don't we begin this new series? The first country we're going to be going over is going to be the northernmost country in North America. It's going to be Canada. Everybody knows Canada. It's one of the biggest countries in the world and in the game by landmass, and it's got an interesting layout. So Canada is going to be a European doctrine nation. That means it's going to have things like strike fighters that it excels at, mechanized infantry, stuff like that. It's going to be of the European doctrine, which is what most of Europe is for that matter. It is going to have a pretty weird layout. It is going to be 6 cities, I believe. Yes, it's going to be 6 cities. And all of the cities are basically bordering the United States or are coastal cities right above the United States. Like Montreal can be coastal right above the United States. Toronto can be accessed by Chicago. Stuff like that. So this is mostly going to be a problem if you are playing this country, because the US is probably going to be your biggest enemy. And it's really the only enemy you're going to face most of the time in the early game or in the mid game. So you've got an AI nation, Quebec, that you can just take right off the bat as Canada. This is what I would do instantly, and I would also start preparing for the United States if you are not an ally with them. If you're an ally with them, then most likely you will just move downwards or move to places like Greenland or Iceland. But really, if you're going against the US, you're going to want to build up your forces, and you're going to want to probably be defensive. Once you have enough forces, then you can then build up and attack them. So how would I play Canada? As Canada, knowing that, I would probably start with building infantry right off the bat, probably strike fighters, but also ships, because 4 of your 6 cities are coastal. And in the early game, I might even go for corvettes, because the US will have most of your cities to go through by port. It'll have a couple cities like Winnipeg here that it can go through by land, but really ships are going to be your best friend. Strike fighters will also allow for a fast response time, because as most big countries go, experienced players will know right off the bat that a big country is hard to play when you don't have a fast response force in terms of holding off an invasion. And having a couple airfields around this country can help you defend against invasions from all places. Like there's an airfield in Montreal. I would build one around here potentially, and one near Vancouver. And you can kind of cover a lot of land that way. So strike fighters would be a very decent option for an air force for this country. I would go for motorized infantry, mobile AA, because European doctrine gets the best mobile anti-aircraft. And I would, like I said, I would focus on ships as well, because this is a mostly coastal oriented country, and you are going to need to project your power eventually, because there's not many countries that you can get to without going across the water as Canada. Like I said, you have the US and you have Mexico, but then that's all you really have. You have to cross water at some point, like through Panama or Cuba. So really, that's how I would play Canada. I would go for ships, a decent air force, and a decent army. You can't really have you can't really be missing one, because as Canada, it is really hard to play without one, and even early game, you are going to be in trouble if you're versing the US alone. So it's wise to ally with the US in the situation for this country, and it honestly is hard to play a little bit because of the cities, of the city number that it has. So try and play this carefully, trade with your allies if you have them, and in my opinion, I would play this country with allies, but if you want to go solo, that's my suggestion for units you should do. Next, we're going to be moving to the United States of America. This is the biggest country in the game as far as city numbers go, besides Russia. So, this country, although it is huge and has so many cities, it has 10. This is a country that you have to play if you're a very experienced player. If you're inexperienced and don't necessarily know what you're doing yet, I would recommend personally not to play this country right away. Countries that I would recommend for beginners are countries that are kind of condensed and have decent amounts of cities. Like Colombia, for example, it's condensed and has, I think, 7 cities, and that's the kind of nation that's more beginner friendly. The US is huge. It has the mainland, Alaska, it has Hawaii. You have cities all over the place that can be attacked by various people. You border Mexico from the south, Canada from the north, you have Cuba that could attack you, even some South American countries. And so really, you are in a tough situation if you don't know what you're doing. So as the US, I've played it twice and I've won twice. And the way I won those games, I won both of them as a coalition. I projected my power, as in real life, I projected my power with a navy. Playing the US, it is vital to have a navy. You cannot go without a navy as the US because your only non-coastal city is St. Louis. 9 of your 10 cities are coastal. Your entire west coast, your east coast, New Orleans, Chicago, you've got Anchorage up here, you've got Hawaii, they're all coastal. So you need to have a navy or you're going to just lose your cities and lose the fight, and you're not going to be able to really progress through the game that much. Especially solo, you're going to need a navy to protect your cities, or you're just going to have a bad time and start struggling and losing cities all over the place. So as the United States, you are obviously the Western Doctrine. You are going to want to play this very carefully unless you have a coalition. A coalition is recommended to be Canada, United States, Mexico, Cuba, Colombia maybe, but you can just be spread around. But really, if you're the US and you're playing in a coalition, you generally might want to have some, like, Canada out of the coalition that you can attack, or Mexico, but really you don't want to be fighting on 2 fronts because it'll be really hard, because these 2 countries to the north and south of the United States are actually having a decent amount of cities. So what you're going to do is you are going to want to build ports, and I would say 3 cities in the beginning. That's generally what I would do, and I would start building corvettes and frigates right away. Now, I would do that because they require level 2 ports and are fairly cheap, but you're also going to want to have frigates for the long run, for defense, and also to cover your main fleet, because as the US, you're probably going to want to have cruisers, frigates, and even submarines. That's what I did. As my playthrough of the United States went, I had naval patrol aircrafts, submarines, cruisers, frigates, I had everything. That's what the US does. You don't even need much of an army, you just need a badass navy, and you can kick some ass as the United States. So what I would do is I would see what your situation is, and if you're not in a coalition, I would recommend building up your troops and going for Canada first. Now, I would go for Canada first because all of the cities are really close to you and you don't need to travel that far to get them, and if you can just silence Canada really early, then you can start focusing on Mexico and Cuba. Now that's really important because you don't want to be bogged down in multiple wars right at the beginning, or you're going to have a hard time, because obviously production of units is going to be hard if you're losing cities. So that's what I would do. I would not worry about Quebec or Bermuda or any of these AI nations down here. I would go for Canada first, then focus on South. And really that's how you play the US. You focus your neighbor to the north if you don't have them as an ally, and just keep moving south and south and south until you get to the bottom of South America. The US is really hard to play, and really you're going to want to just use your big navy and air force to guard your cities. You want to have generally defenses or like at least one ship at every city. The Great Lakes, you can have a ship sitting here that blocks the whole Great Lake, or here somewhere here, but you can also have it in front of Chicago if you want, because really there aren't any access points directly to the mainland apart from Chicago, or they'll just have to land in Toronto or Montreal to get to your cities, but that'll be a long travel. So that's an easy access point to block. You can obviously block all your other cities. And what I would do as the US is I would create a submarine wall or MPAs in places like this, like these lines. I think I had it here. I would place MPAs in this line or submarines here, and I'll also place one in the west, and that just ensures protection. Like you can have one point there, there, and there, and you're pretty much safe. You could even do one there if you want. And obviously just have these cities out here, but really if you have those points locked down, you're pretty much good to go. You can defend this point, and you are basically safe as can be as the United States. You obviously want to defend occupied cities like Reynosa, if you have those, as well as Mexicali, but really that's how you want to play the US. You want to have ships guarding every city, and air force as well, because you want to have a fast response time. And I would recommend playing this if you're experienced and feel comfortable playing a big country, because big countries are really hard to play, especially when you're basically all coastal cities. This is one of the best countries in my opinion though, because it has 3 component cities, and it can generally have spawn random amounts of resource provinces. Like Oklahoma there has supplies, Concord here has components, stuff like that. And so I would play the US in that way, and it's really difficult to play, but it's really fun when you can do it right. The next country we're going to be going over is going to be Mexico. This country is going to be one of the countries that I have played I think once, and I wasn't really a fan of it because of the way the resources felt, but that's just how a lot of cities or a lot of countries feel that have 6 cities only. But really, the way you're going to want to play this European doctrine country is you are going to want to have a navy, because as you can see, every city apart from your capital of Mexico City is coastal. Now, what's one positive thing about Mexico right off the bat? You have Pan America all to yourself. You have Guatemala City with supplies, Tegucigalpa with components, you have Managua with fuel, you have San Jose with electronics, and Panama City. You have all of these countries that you could take, but you have to worry about your northern neighbor. Now, one thing I would look for when you're playing Mexico, if you don't have a coalition, is I would look to see if the United States is getting into a war with Canada. If they are, I would take that opportunity to move north, especially through Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Portland, and that's 3 other cities down. And I would move through here towards New Orleans, and move through here to St. Louis. Don't go for the capital right away, but I would just take as many cities as you can before the capital to reduce his production of troops and ability to fight you. You're going to want to have mostly strike fighters probably at the beginning. I would go for a decent navy, probably land-based, but you can also do subs as well as naval patrol aircrafts. And really, your position actually isn't that bad. If you could take out the US when they're getting in a war with Canada, if that's the case, then you can also have Pan America to yourself, and that's basically just like 5 more cities you can take, as well as these cities. If you can take Cuba as well, that's going to be such a resource-rich area for you, and that's what makes Mexico actually really solid, in my opinion, because of how many AI countries it has near it, and countries that it can take and get involved in wars. And that's how you can take advantage of things like that and make Mexico a good country. Like I said, the resources are hard to manage, but as long as you do those basic things, you can make this country work very well for you. You just need to have ships guarding your coastal cities, and it's not as spread out like the United States. You have 3 cities here and a few here along the edges, but really you're nice and centralized, and that's what I think is good about it. And I would just do those things that I mentioned to try and make your chances of the early game more survivable. Now, moving to the last country of North America, it's going to be Cuba. Now, Cuba is the one I'm playing now, and I personally have not played this before, but I am doing it now. Cuba is actually a very nice country because you are just an island, and that means you can lock yourself down completely with ships or submarines, and you can make yourself untouchable because you're not connected really to any landmass. You have some nice starting AI countries here, like you have Jamaica, you have Haiti, and you have the Dominican Republic as well as Puerto Rico. But you want to be careful because your neighbors will be eyeing you, like the United States or Mexico or even Colombia or Venezuela. So it's really hard to play this, and in the game this is labeled as recommended for experienced players. This Eastern Doctrine country, it is Eastern Doctrine, as you can see by the troops here. This is going to be one that you want to focus on with ships, like before anything else. Once you can have ships at every city, at least one, then you're good to go. You can start having a navy for offensive purposes, and you can get things like naval patrol aircrafts or a decent air force, and even a solid army. But really what you want to do is you want to have a strong navy so that you can project your power and have a strong defensive capability to defend your cities so that you can't be touched, while you can also harass your enemies with your navy and make landfall and eventually take out all these nations surrounding you, because your neighbors are going to have a lot of coastal cities, like Canada, the US, Mexico, all have so many coastal cities, so they're so vulnerable to a huge naval attack if that's what you're going for. And if you take advantage of that, and countries like Venezuela, this city, this city, this city, and this city can all be hit by ships. Even Bolivar City, this city can be hit by ships with a haunted range. So basically, so many of these countries around you can be taken advantage of with a strong navy, and that's how I would play Cuba. Cuba is another 6-city country that is hard to manage with resource numbers, but you can annex cities around you if you want. Kingston is a good city to annex because it has components. Port-au-Prince is a nice one to annex for fuel. Santo Domingo for electronics. You have some cities around you that are really decent to annex, including Merida and Washington DC potentially. So you just have a lot of resources around you that you can, use and take for yourself. And that's how I'll play Cuba, and that's how I'm going to be trying to play it this game. Now, guys, I hope that this helps you at all a little bit. That's my goal for these basics videos and these series. I hope that this explains how to play countries a little bit and how to interpret them. I'm going to be stopping here at North America, and I'll be doing South America in the next video. I'll be doing continent after continent. And I really hope that this does as well as the Unit Basics series, because everybody loved that, and I'm so glad that I can help people do better in their con experience and give them some information that they might not be able to know yet. But that's okay, because everybody starts somewhere. So guys, if you're enjoying this series, enjoying the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot. Like the video if you want to, if you liked it. If you didn't like it, you can leave a dislike or leave a comment saying why you didn't like it, or you can leave a comment asking a question, something you did like about it, or anything, just if you even want to say hi. So guys, I hope you enjoy this new series, and I will catch you all in the next Country Basics video of the Country Basics series. See you later, guys. Have a great day.